Okay, guys, once again, for those who have just connected to us, please send plus in the chat if you can clearly see me and hear me. And I guess we will start in a few minutes. Yep. Yeah, that's good. So many pluses. Okay, first of all, I'm really glad to see you all here today, and a bit of introduction for you. I know there is a rather hard period now, especially for those who are planning to pass Russian state exam this year, and I do really know about your inassurance, your uncertainty, and so on. So just remember to stay calm, cool-headed, carefully plan all your preparation and all your tasks that you are going to do beforehand. And that is how you will achieve great results. And also don't forget to take care of yourself and of your elder relatives. So I guess we may start. And first of all, let me yep, like this. First of all, let me introduce myself and the topic for our today's discussion. This is one big family. All the Russian exams, all the international exams, they are all exams, and you are going to pass your English exam rather soon. And I'm here to help you to define your further goals. Like the life doesn't end with the Russian state exam, and probably you will want to learn English further and to pass some more exams. And the topic of our today's discussion is how preparing for Russian state exam may help with international ones. So a few words about myself. My name is Mihail Grishin. I'm a second-year student here at Moscow State Pedagogical University, and I study at the faculty of double diploma program of Institute of International Education and University of London. So I'm also on a budgetary form of education because several years ago I won a Eurasian linguistic competition, and that allowed me to enter the budgetary form. Also, I do research currently on territorial varieties of English language. Perhaps you know everything about these dialects, about these accents, and so on and so forth. So I study British, American, Australian, and so on. And I do scientific publications, if I can say like that, in the sphere of linguistics. So I'm really keen on it. So let's start. Actually, why we are doing this? Why we are studying English? English language, that's what unites us. And some people may ask, do you speak English? And some may answer that I can read and write in the language, I speak it fluently, or I read books in the original, I watch films, series, and so on. But not all of us can actually evaluate our real level of knowledge. And that is why some international certificates, some international exams, and also the Russian state exam, of course, are here to help us to evaluate, to mark, to see the results of our progress in the English language. So a few words about the different types of exams, of course. So first of all, this is the Russian state exam. And as you can see, there is like the level, the international level in the brackets. This is not the actual level at which these exams are aimed, but the difficulty level, you know, like in a computer game. So Russian state exam is for levels B1 to B2. Also, there are Cambridge Cambridge exams for speakers of other languages. So this is FCE, First Certificate in English. Perhaps you have heard of it while preparing for Russian state exam. The difficulty level of this very exam is B1, B2, also just like Russian state exam. And as we will see further, there is very much in common between these two types. Then there is Certificate in Advanced English and Certificate of Proficiency in English. So those are mainly aimed at levels C1 and C2, so rather professional ones. Those are also from a family of Cambridge exams, and they are much more complicated than FCE or Russian state exam, of course, and we will discuss about it. We will discuss it a bit later. Finally, from Cambridge family of exams, there is IELTS, International English Language Testing System. Probably some of you heard about it. Probably some of you have already decided that they are going to pass it sometime in the future. Why? The initial aim of IELTS is to pass this exam in order to enter the foreign university, especially in the countries of in the United Kingdom or in the countries of European Union. And the difficulty level is, of course, yet again, C1 and C2. And the last exam for comparison in our today's discussion is TOEFL, Test of English as a Foreign Language. It is developed by Princeton University, by Princeton English Testing Center. And this is very much like IELTS, but it is aimed on the Canada and United States of America. So it's also like C1, C2, and it differs very much from all our familiar, from all the exams that we are familiar with. Now, I think we are going to cover each of these exams and their tasks in more details. Again, yep. Russian state exam. As you're already preparing for it, you have probably heard very much and you know it very, very good. So what does Russian state exam in English consist of? This is listening part, of course, where we are matching speakers. There is a true, false, not stated task, and of course, a multiple choice task. It is worth mentioning that the very last task in every part in listening, reading, use of English, writing, speaking, and so on and so forth, they are aimed at level B2. So usually they are much more complicated than the rest of the exam. So then here comes reading. You're given a sheet of paper with some texts on various topics. Usually they are quite interactive, entertainment, or something like that. I hope you can see it well. And the tasks in this part is matching headings, filling the gaps with one sentence, and multiple choice task, just as usual. Then comes the use of English part, where the examiners are checking for your actual level of knowledge, if we can call it like that, and how well you know grammar, how well you know vocabulary, and so on. So the grammar task for various tenses, I don't know, constructions, pronouns, and so on and so forth. Then there is a word formation task, where you're required to form a word from a given one. And then there is a vocabulary, usually aimed at your knowledge of phrasal verbs. Considering the part of writing, 80 minutes to write both a letter to a friend and an informal one. it is worth mentioning, and a discursive essay. Probably you know everything about it already. And there is a speaking part where you read text, then ask questions on some advertisement, then you have to describe a picture, and then you have to compare and contrast a pair of given pictures to you. Sounds pretty easy, perhaps, but let's look further at different exams. So the first certificate in English FCE exam, as you can see, there is already some differences. There are already some differences. Reading part and use of English part are combined in one, and usually reading and use of English and writing, they are passed in one day. However, listening and speaking can be divided into another day. So in reading and use of English, just the same, grammar and vocabulary tasks, fill in the gaps, whether with one word or with a whole sentence. Then they're checking your knowledge of idioms from British or American English, mostly from British, of course, and some set expressions, I mean phrasal verbs in here. Then there is matching information and multiple choice tasks, of course. So pretty easy and pretty similar to those in Russian state exam. Then there is writing. That is where the main differences come into our mind. First of all, you are required to write an essay based on key ideas. To say it shortly, to make it concise, you're given a set of bullet points like idea 1, idea 2, idea 3, and blah, 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 blah. And you have to write an essay based on these ideas. So practically they have planned everything for you. All you have to do is organize your thoughts carefully. The second task in writing part involves writing whether an article or an email or a report or a review. So you are given choice whether from 4 options, like and it is worth mentioning that email is not the one from the Russian state exam, but it is semi-formal. If in Russian state exam, we are writing, "Dear John, I'm so glad to receive a letter from you. I hope you are doing well," and so on and so forth. While semi-formal includes more formal vocabulary, more formal grammatical structures, no contractions once again, and so on. Then comes the listening part, the third in order of tasks. It involves multiple choice tasks, fill in the gaps with one word, with a set of words, and also matching speakers. If you are carefully preparing for Russian state exam, perhaps you have noticed that your teachers, that your colleagues, that your tutors are giving you some tasks from FCE listening part because they are very much alike. And finally, there is speaking. Speaking also very differs from Russian state exam because it involves a conversation with examiner first of all. So a real human, a real examiner, teacher, professor. It can also be like a native speaker of the language, and they are asking you some questions like, "How do you like the weather today? Where do you study? Like, are you nervous?" or something like that. Then you are working in pair with other examinee, like with your fellow colleague, with your fellow student, with whom you are passing this test. And you are discussing photos, like you're given a set of photos and there is some situation. And the task involves you to come to some conclusion, to some, first of all, to conduct some discussion, and then to come to some conclusion based on the problem depicted in these photos. And then there is questions from examiner to both of you, like, this is very complicated too. the examiner asks you several questions based on the photos and based on your decision according to the problem. So I hope that's all is pretty clear. The real problems start in CAE and CPE exams. It is worth mentioning that CAE and CPE are very much academic. In reading, you may face some fictional texts, some text based on education, some scientific articles, and so on and so forth. They are aimed at more professional level of acquiring English, of understanding it, and the texts are usually very much longer, so like that. However, in FCE, you can see texts from cultural topic, historical topic, I don't know, common everyday things like that you're usually discussing with your fellow colleagues. It's pretty the same, like reading and use of English are also combined, writing differs a bit, and it is given more time on it. Like you have to write an essay based on text. It is written in brackets that you have to summarize this text. So this is like combined reading and writing. You're reading some text, usually some scientific article or something like that, and then summarizing part, you have to show that you can clearly understand the key ideas, the key information from this text, and you can carefully transport it to a non-educated reader, like that. And also email, proposal, report, review in the second part of the writing. Listening is very much the same like in FCE, but of course the vocabulary would be much more complicated, much more complex, the grammatical structures and the basic atmosphere would be different. Like there may be a conversation between a tutor and two students, like in some academic environment, in school, in university, in some like, I don't know, private tutorship center or something like that. And the speaking part, it lasts for 15 minutes, and it also involves working in pairs and conversation with examiner. So you have to show that you can actually discuss some problems, photos, and you can clearly communicate with your interlocutor. IELTS exam. IELTS exam, as you probably know, or maybe not, is divided into two parts, like general IELTS and academic IELTS. They are called modules. General IELTS is passed for those who want to work in another country or to immigrate to another country or something like that. While academic module is for those who want to enter the university, for those who want to study abroad. So there are some differences in it. In general IELTS, there would be more everyday English, some topics connected with work, perhaps housing, communication with the representatives of other nationalities, and so on. While in academic one, there would be real educational environment. In listening, you will face some lectures, some pieces of lectures, some conversations, yet again, between tutors and students, I don't know, and some, so overall, the academic environment. This is not the number of tasks, as you can see on this slide, but this is the variance of tasks that you may be given. So in listening involves 4 parts, and you can face 4 of these tasks, like either multiple choice or matching, plan, map, diagram, labeling, summary completion, sentence completion, or short answer questions. Short answer questions, this is like a distinctive feature of IELTS, and many students who pass it usually face some problems with it because they don't actually read the task. I can say it from my own experience. It is written that you should fill in the gap with 1 word, 2 words, 3 words, and people usually simply don't read it. That's all. The same is with the reading. You are given 3 texts. Usually they are about some academic topics, about particular sciences. Of course, you will not be given like texts on nuclear engineering, on neurobiology, or something like that. But they will ask you to read like more professional text in biology in general, like, I don't know, about psychology, something from common knowledge, but those topics that we do not face in everyday communication with each other. And also there are very different tasks that you may face in there. Of course, it's multiple choice. Then it is true, false, not given, just like in Russian state exam. Yes, no, not given task, matching information, matching headings, sentence or summary completion, short answer questions, and of course, diagram labeling. You have to like actually see these tasks with diagram or map labeling to understand what it looks like. The real differences start in the part of writing, I mean, between general and academic IELTS. In general IELTS, you may be asked to write a semi-formal letter or email, perhaps to some company, perhaps to your local council or something like that. And usually you are asked to solve some problem. I don't know, in Moscow realities, you see that from your yard, the litter is not usually like driven away or thrown away. And you're writing to a local council to ask to solve this problem. This is about the general IELTS, the general module. In academic module, you are asked to write a graph description for 150 words. Perhaps you have seen such difficult line graphs, diagrams, pie charts, or something like that. And you have to describe it and summarize the main features. And if there are several graphs, you have to compare them. That's very difficult and requires a lot of preparation. And finally, the same for both parts is discursive essay. The discursive essay is not the same like in Russian state exam. There are various types of it, and you actually have to be prepared, and you have to identify the type of the essay you are going to write based on the task you're given. So writing part is actually very difficult, especially in IELTS. And speaking part, it aims like at your monological speech on the level of your knowledge in the sphere of profound complex language. And usually there are topics that are partially connected with everyday life, but they are more wider audience or something like that, like environmental problems, sociological problems. It is feminism topics is especially excruciating in nowadays realities or something like that. It involves interview with the examiner, like yet again, do you like the weather today, do you like chocolate, or do you like sweets, or something like that. Pretty simple. But then you are given a long-term monologue, yet again, bullet points, and you have to speak for long during these to cover these points. And then there is a discussion with examiner based on what you have said in the part 2. So that is where you can show how you may discuss, how you can evaluate your speech, some decisions or something like that, how you can actually develop your speech. So moving further, TOEFL exam, test of English as a foreign language. That is the exam that differs a lot from all the ones mentioned before. So reading, you can see 60 to 80 minutes, 3 to 4 parts. The thing about TOEFL is that they like experimenting on you. They can give you an additional text to read, and on additional topic, on some uncommon topic, and they will see how students actually deal with this task and whether they will use it in their further exams or not. Also, TOEFL is aimed at integrating tasks like combined listening and reading, combined reading and speaking, and so on and so forth. So this requires much more complex mental functions, and your brain has to work for all the 3 hours that you're going, 3 or 4 hours you're going to pass these exam for. So in reading, you're given also multiple choice task, where the task where you have to insert sentences in the gaps, and the very interesting part, reading to learn. So you're given some university topic, some topic that that students usually study at their universities. This may be on sociology, I don't know, humanitarian sciences or something like that. And you have to complete the summary of this, just like if you have completed the lecture on this very subject. The listening part, they also may experiment in this. It involves multiple choice tasks, multiple answer, where you have to tick more than one answer on this very task, and usually a replay. A replay is very easy because you're given part of a monologue, part of a lecture, to listen again and to answer some complex and profound question based on this part you're given for replay. Then there is speaking. Speaking is like a pain in the neck. It is divided into independent one and integrated one. Independent speaking is like you're given, you're going to speak, to give an oral essay based on the statement. Like you're given some bullet points yet again, and you have to actually form a clear and distinctive answer on the question you were given. And finally, there is integrated speaking. First of all, you listen to some text, then you read some text, and then you speak based on what you have heard and what you have read previously. This is all like, yet again, evaluating or analyzing or summarizing. The task may ask you to give some information, to give your opinion on what you have listened or what you have read. And then there is writing, which lasts for 50 minutes, the shortest one, I think, from all the exams, but it is also very difficult. In writing, in the first part, you have to compare listening clip and reading passage to evaluate whether there were some differences, similarities, or something like that. And actually transported to a paper. And then there is independent writing. Usually this is very common opinion essay. Like you're given some problem, you're given 2 points of view, and you have to analyze it and give your own one. So TOEFL is very complicated because it is aimed at universities, on those who plan to enter universities in USA and Canada, and actually they're the top the top 20, top 50 universities in the world, and it's very difficult to pass TOEFL on a good mark. Now let's turn to actually comparison, how your preparation for Russian state exam may help, may benefit if you are going to pass all other international exams. We will start from listening. Mention speakers. You can face it in, you can meet it in FCE or CAE exams. So you're already prepared for it. In IELTS, it's pretty different. You don't have to mention to match speakers with their statements, but you have to mention to match information they have said with the information written on your test paper, like I don't know, cause and the initial effect of it. And you cannot actually meet it in TOEFL exam. True, false, not stated task. As you can see, this is the peculiarity of Russian state exam only. This is, I guess, Cambridge and Princeton are not interested in how you heard what the speaker have said, and whether it was true, false, or they didn't mention it at all. And then there is multiple choice task. Actually, the task is the same. You have to tick one answer out of 3, 4, 5 options you are given. But the topics are very different, as I have already mentioned, and you have to be prepared for all of it. The reading part, matching headings you may meet only in IELTS exam. Because it's very common feature, like to analyze the main thoughts of the paragraph, the key ideas in the piece of reading you're given. And in other Cambridge exams, you cannot meet it. In TOEFL, either, because it's more integrated one. Fill in the gaps in FCE and CAE. The only difference is that you may be asked to fill in the gaps with one word, with a set of words, or with all your own words, but not the whole sentences, like in Russian state exam. So the clear communication, that is what's required in FCE and CAE. IELTS exam, yep, of course. And TOEFL, you may be asked to fill in the gaps with the whole sentences. And it's all about the details and about how you compare and how you can link your ideas and the ideas presented in the text. And of course, yet again, multiple choice task is very common one for all the exams. The writing part. This the part which is very much similar, but at the same time it is very much different in all the exams. In FCE and CAE exams, you may be asked to write a letter, but that would be not a letter to a friend, but a semi-formal letter, as I have already mentioned, perhaps to some organization, perhaps to solve some problem or something like that, but not to your friend. And that's very important to understand, to distinguish the styles, the informal one, like in Russian state exam, and formal and semi-formal ones. And you, of course, cannot face a letter in IELTS or in TOEFL. Discursive essay, I'm sorry. This is like your opinion on the problem and evaluating some points. Of course, this is very much alike in various exams, but in IELTS and in TOEFL, you may be asked to write about also other types of essays, like theory-based one, like opinion, like problem solving, or something like that. So you're partly prepared for it if you can write a good essay for Russian state exam. And there is speaking part, all in red crosses, as you can see. Picture description, you can face only in FCE and CAE, but this is not the only task you have to do. You have to analyze the pictures, you have to understand the problem presented in there, and also to discuss it with your partner. This is how actually describing the picture and understanding the inner aims, inner thoughts in there will help you to pass FCE or CAE. And all the other tasks, they're not interesting for international exams. Like who cares how you read the text? They can see the intonation, they can see the pronunciation based on what you have said, on what you have discussed with your partner. And they don't need to know your knowledge on how you ask questions or how you compare and contrast ones. So the cliches that you're probably drilling for speaking right now, they will not work in international exams. So, as we can see, international exams and Russian state exam, they are very much alike in some aspects. And if you have passed the Russian state exam on 85 plus, so you can say for sure that you have a B2 level and that you can easily pass FCE exam or even CAE or CPE. But it's all about the proper preparation for it. I would like to give you some advice, some hints how to upgrade from Russian to international level, how you can further develop your knowledge of English and how it will help you in the future. Considering the listening part, you have to learn synonyms and distinguish them in oral speech. You can, unlike in Russian state exam, they will not repeat everything word by word, but they will use synonyms. And that is how the magnificent site that I always use that I personally use very often is thesaurus.com. That is where you can type the word like good, like beautiful, or very simple one, and they will show you, this site will show you different synonyms of it, like magnificent, alluring, amazing. So you can easily say that they sound much better than the common beautiful. Then you have to learn how to highlight the key words and how to understand the key ideas that are given in the piece of lecture, in the piece of like a conversation or something like that. That is very important skill to acquire, not only in listening, but also in reading. Then there is dropping out nonsense. It's very common practice for international exams to give you the variant that repeats what they have said and listening word by word. That is really much alike, and that variant is usually not correct. So you can simply drop it out and forget about it and concentrate on other more complicated variants. And perhaps it is a very like common thing, and I will repeat it once again. This is the constant practice via lectures, via different courses on some special sites like Coursera.org, edx.org, or TED.com. That is where you can easily listen to some speech patterns, listen for some dialects or accents. That will allow you to develop your skill of listening. That will very much help you not only to educate yourself, but also to understand the spoken speech of representatives of other nationalities. Turning to reading, Considering the international exams, it is very useful to acquire the strategies of skimming and scanning. What's that actually? Skimming is like when you're reading the text very fast in order to catch the general thought. Like you're skimming the text and you can say that this text is about, I don't know, cats or vice versa, dogs or something. Very simple. And scanning, vice versa. This is about looking for particular information in the text, perhaps some notions, perhaps some names, some dates, or I don't know, everything like that, everything of that sort. Yet again, highlighting key ideas. That would very much help you to like match headings, to find the key information, to that will help you further to summarize it if you are speaking about TOEFL exam. So highlighting key ideas. Take your pencil and highlight the key ideas in every piece of text that you are reading. Then it is learning profound vocabulary. There is a very little possibility that you will face like the actual words that you have learned in the piece of text, but that would probably help you to understand, I don't know, to see how the words are formed actually, and that will help you to understand more complex and profound text. Then, yet again, very common thought, it's a constant practice via articles and use on English-speaking websites like thetimes.co.uk or washingtonpost.com, telegraph.co.uk, and so on and so forth. So you may read articles and use in the language, and that will help you to develop the skill of reading, the fast reading, and the reading for key ideas. Like, and usually this is not only about the news, about the current political situation, for example, or something like that. That is not interesting for the majority, I'm almost sure. But also there can be entertainment articles. I don't know, some games perhaps, some, I don't know, some interesting experiments or something like that. So do not hesitate and find some time to read some articles in use on these sites. Finally, there is writing. Writing is aimed in all international exams as well as in Russian state exam. It is aimed at analyzing and at looking how you use complex grammatical and lexical structures. So more complicated vocabulary, like past perfect tenses, conditional sentences. If you can clearly implement those into a piece of writing, that will really boost your mark, I promise you. To prepare for international level, you have to learn about different types of essays. Of course, in Russian state exam, you are given 2 points of view. Some people think that, other people think other. And you have to comment on it and give your opinion. But there are also other types of essays, like cause and effect, problem solving, theory-based, discursive essays. And you actually need to learn the differences between them and learn how to write them and carefully structure your opinions, your thoughts. And finally, it's about different types of tasks, of course. That would be very wise to look at the structure of different articles, different proposals, reports, summaries, so on and so forth, because that will help you to prepare for international level. And do not limit yourself with simple, "Hi, John, I'm really glad to receive your letter." You have to develop further. Like this is my personal recommendation for you. Speaking, yet again, it's all about the vocabulary that you use. Try to speak about everything you see. If you're speaking to a cat, this is not like schizophrenia or something like that. This is the very common practice. Speak to your cat in English, and that will help you to, I don't know, to make a proper intonation, to use more words or something like that, and everything. There are various sites and applications for your mobile phone that will help you to deal with this. Those are Quizlet.com, Memrise.com, or Mary, or all the others in that sphere. The applications involve Duolingo, Lingualeo. Perhaps some of you are already using it, so to prepare for Russian state exam. Then, yet again, it's about new idioms and new synonyms. Like, if you say, I don't like it, that sounds pretty dull, that sounds boring. And to show your true level of vocabulary, you may say, it is not my cup of tea. Instead of, it is easy, you may say, it was a piece of cake. So, very tasty synonyms, I would say, very tasty idioms. And also it's about synonyms. As I already mentioned, beautiful is boring, amazing, a bit better, but alluring is that shows your high vocabulary and that you can operate it properly. And finally, as I have already mentioned, speak about everything and everywhere. TED lectures or Reddit lectures are here to help you. And especially nowadays, in terms of self-isolation, you can not only prepare for exams, but also educate yourself to learn something new. And do not hesitate to listen to TED lectures or Reddit lectures to know about things that you would have never learned of in your everyday life. I know this is the very common practice nowadays on YouTube, for example, to make tops. So I have also decided to make a top 5 answers on why actually take international English exams, why to overcome the level of Russian state exam, and why to I don't know, form your future with help of international English exams. So first of all, this is prestigious. Like, imagine you are acquiring a diploma of not unknown courses of English or from private tutor perhaps, but you are certified by some like international testing centers. Your exam paper was checked by independent professionals or even professors from universities abroad. And you can show this paper, look, I have 18 IELTS, and your employer perhaps or your fellow colleagues may say, wow, like, that's cool, that's all. Then it is about increasing your level of knowledge, like upgrading from the like everyday language to more complicated one. You may talk on some other topics usually connected with educational environment, about some psychological issues, issues. That's very like motivating, I would say. It involves preparation for months and or even years, and you will for sure learn new words, new grammar structures, new topics for discussion. So like it's always nice and motivating to learn something new about to speak in English. It is for immigration. International English exams are initially aimed for immigration. Like your certificate would allow you to enter some other country. For example, TOEFL exam will allow you to live and work in the USA and Canada. And if you prefer Britain, Europe, I don't know, Australia, then you have to pass IELTS, of course. And this is like on the same level as visa, for example. You need to enter the country, the other English-speaking country. The international English exams are for studying abroad. Like if you're taking undergraduate or bachelor's degree or even master's degree in university in English-speaking country, you will need these international exams like IELTS, TOEFL, CAE, or CPE. This will show you. This will show your level of knowledge or how you can operate in English on unfamiliar topics. And finally, think about your adult life. Everybody wants a high-paid, prestigious job in some international company abroad, and various embassies, political structures, I don't know, banks, teaching centers, governments, or something like that. They all accept international exams as a pass for you to work for them. I guess that's all. And study and support your knowledge not only with Russian state exam, but also with international ones. And let the Russian state exam be your first step into the world of widespread English. So thank you very much. And now it is time for your questions and my answers. Don't hesitate to write them in the chat, and I will try to answer all of them. I hope you didn't fall asleep and you were listening attentively, and you, of course, have some questions. Thank you very much. How not to be nervous in exams. That may sound rather a common thing, but try to like to go to sleep beforehand. Do not study all night before the exam or something like that. You will not learn something new for you, and that will only create a mess in your head. And nervousness, you have to understand that nervousness has never led to something productive or to some good results. And just keep cool-headed and have a careful plan in your head how to deal with the exams. I hope I understood the question correctly. Thank you very much. Thanks for the lesson. Thank you very much for listening, for coming, and I hope you have learned something new about it. So I will wait for some more questions. Thank you. Have a great day. Actually, it's already evening. I hope I will have a great one. And I wish you too. Thanks. Thank you very much also. With smile. Thanks for the lecture. Where can I find the list of words belonging to a certain level, for example, to C1 for Cambridge exam? There is of top words for IELTS, for CAE exams in different applications. For example, in Quizlet that I mentioned in the lecture, in Quizlet, in Memrise, there is even some I don't know, links to those top of words, top 100 words, top 200 words for IELTS or something like that. And you can easily learn them in there, or you can simply Google the top words for CAE and find it in Google Pictures, and there would be a big list of those based on the themes, on the topics, housing, education, I don't know, everything like that. Did you start, I'm sorry, what was the most hard for you when you have exams? I guess this is a personal question. What was the the hardest for me when I first passed my international exam. I guess it was like that I have to communicate with the native speaker. Like usually they are speaking very quickly with some idioms or something like that. I was totally prepared for test part. I knew that I have to read some texts in English, some profound ones. I had to show my vocabulary, but actually facing a real English-speaking person that will who will communicate with me and ask me some questions. That what scared me much. I hope I succeeded to answer this question. Did you study at the school specialized in English? Actually, I studied in some lyceum. Actually, I'm from Irkutsk, the small town in Siberia, and I studied in the lyceum belonging to my local state university, like Irkutsk State University, just like Moscow State University, but from a small town. And we had like the division in classes. I know you have it. In Moscow also, like mathematical class, like physical class, biologists or something like that. And I studied in linguistic class. And of course, currently I'm 21 and I have been studying English for, let me say, 17 years already, because I visited some private schools, I had tutors from the age of 4. And that is how I managed to succeed in all these exams or something like that. And I have been dealing with English for all my life. And even currently, I'm studying in a faculty where all the lectures are in English, and I'm doing private tutoring. I'm preparing for Russian state exam. I'm preparing for IELTS, and I have to deal with English probably every day. And there was a question whether I can switch from Russian into English quickly. Да, я могу. Да, так равно и работает. Thank you for the lesson. Have a nice day. Have a nice day, you too. You're very great audience. Always silent. Thanks for the links and for the lecture. Yep, I hope those links that I have provided would be useful for you. I hope this presentation will be sent to you and you will look through it one more time and perhaps you will find something useful in it. So I'm waiting for some time for some more questions. Thanks for the webinar and for the links. Thank you too. Thank you. It was useful. Glad to hear it. Take care of yourself and do not panic. I know that today there was an information that Russian state exam will be transferred to some later dates already. And just do not panic and use the time wisely for preparation. Bye, thanks. Thank you very much. Any more questions, guys? Perhaps you have some questions about university or something like that. Andrei Vladimirovich writes, goodbye everyone, have a nice day. So I guess this is how, forgot to ask which subreddits. Yep, Reddit is the front page of the internet, as it is written in their site. I guess the subreddit is actually called like Reddit lectures, and various people from all over the world are, I don't know, are posting lectures, their own lectures on various topics, whether it is cooking, whether it is crafting something or something like that. They're posting it in there. You can just Google Reddit lectures and you will find it. But I prefer TED Talks. actually. Are good for reading. Subreddit is good for reading. It's not all about memes, but memes are also actually very useful for learning very colloquial, very spoken language. But reading, I don't know, perhaps some educational ones, just as I have already mentioned, based on cooking, or crafting something, or just some, I don't know, everyday stories. Are you taught by native speakers at the university? Currently, we have one American professor. She's from Texas, and she's rather talkative and very open-minded person to talk to. And actually, she's the only one, if I'm not mistaken. I hope in the future we will have more native speakers in the university, but it's very hard to find professors who would agree to give lectures in Russia. Yep, I remember our master's degree students have lecturers from Greece, from Greek university, and they also really like them. Our professors, they're English-speaking ones, but they have a very, very good qualitative English, and I hope once I will join their party. Goodbye. Goodbye, everyone. Any more questions? I'm ready to answer all of them. There isn't any possibility to study or work abroad without IELTS or something. Actually, yes. There is no possibility because it is if it is rather a big company, I don't know, oil or I don't know, something like that. If it is big company, it cares a lot about their reputation, and they are looking for professionals who are certified in the English language, and these certificates will help you to prove that you are actually speaking English. It's not studying, not immigration, not working. Also, this is impossible without certificate or something like that. I've lost my thought. I have to agree. Yep, international English exams are very essential, for studying, living, or working. Even if you're watching some bloggers who live currently in America, in the United States of America, or in Great Britain, or in Europe somewhere, they have passed the exams. If they are not mentioning about it, they have passed the exams to actually enter this country, to live there. Yeah, you guys are living, and I guess I thank you. Thank you very much for the questions. And I guess I may finish this conference. Yep. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Have a good day, and remember to take care of yourself and your relatives during this difficult period. Thank you very much. Goodbye, goodbye, everyone.